Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Soul Tribe Podcast. If you've been with us here before and you've tuned in, thanks for coming back, and appreciate the love and hearing what we have to say and sharing life with us in a way. And if it's your first time, that's great. I hope you really like this episode, and we have a few previous episodes that are really good, so make sure and listen to those. So today's episode is going to be about being present. This is huge to many people. It's a huge issue in many people's lives. It could be something that you're struggling with, or many times you struggle with it, and the people around you see how they struggle with it. And then the two people together struggle with it because they both have the same issue. So we're going to talk about how it affects us, how it's affected us with our relationships around us. Lorraine and I have started doing things to try to help ourselves with being present. So we'll also talk about that. But first of all, I think I define being present a little different than Lorena. So I'm just going to say what I feel to me is to be present. And for me, being present is when you're doing something. Let's say, for example, you're cleaning the dishes. Just being present with cleaning the dishes, like you're not thinking about what you're going to be doing after doing the dishes. I'm not thinking about what I did before doing the dishes. I'm not thinking about a fight I had yesterday with my girlfriend. I'm not thinking about next week where I'm going on vacation. I'm literally just washing the dishes and just present in that moment. Like, there's these really good meditations that like help you be present when you're meditating, but those meditations are great in the moment you're doing them. But when you come out of them and you go back into like the reality of what is life, I find that many of us struggle with just being present. And they say that being present is just literally just concentrating what you're doing at the time. And that's what it is for me. And I find myself, for me, the biggest struggle I have with being present is I think about other things a lot. Or so I'll be preparing an episode for the podcast, and I'll be thinking about, I have a reading in an hour, and then after that I have to pick up the baby from preschool, and then after that, and then I have to go to the supermarket, and I have to cook dinner. No, like I'm like listing all these things that the day's going to bring instead of just being there, right? And so that for me is the harder part, not thinking about my list of things, and not thinking about what I have waiting for me to do after I finish the thing that I'm doing. That's the biggest struggle for me. And so for me, being present means being concentrated and fully dedicated to whatever it is you're actually doing it. Even if it's something mundane like washing the dishes, or something like working out, or something like, just meditating and not letting your mind go to 50 million things. Try to be the mindful meditation, right? Being present. But you describe it and you feel it a bit differently than I do, Lo. So how do you feel is being present?
For me, being present is, I think a lot of things that you mentioned were right. And I do feel like sometimes I realize I'm not being present when my mind is wandering and it's going all over the place. When I'm even washing the dishes or cooking, or I'm just doing, editing the podcast, and I'm trying to multitask. Like, multitasking I think is great, but at the same time, are you really concentrating on anything you're doing? I don't know. There's a lot of schools of thought on that, and people see it in different ways. But I'm starting to see multitasking as like something I've been pushed to do with work. But I don't know if it makes you really stay present with anything, because you're doing 3 things at the same time. Like, that's against being present to me in some ways. And then like the lack of anxiety, that makes me realize that I'm being more present. I suffered with a lot of anxiety attacks my whole life. And I realize I'm worrying about something that might happen, or worried about what's coming. sometimes they're genuine fears, but most of the time it's that fear of what's coming or what could happen, which usually does not end up happening. So, it's kind of, makes no sense, but it's your mind playing tricks on you. And then as well, like just feeling a lot of gratitude, feeling joy, feeling calm. I think those are indications that I'm being present and I'm in the moment. Just kind of like to give a little recap of what happened this week, which I think ties in really well with being present. I was attuned for Reiki 2, level 2, and also Master. So, you kind of have to be calm. You have to be in the moment. You have to get in tune with your body and your intentions and all that. And I found myself kind of, I think 15 minutes of it were where I felt so like connected to the energy of the symbols being put in my hands and the attunement itself, and my hands were vibrating and my mind was not thinking about things as much. I don't know, it was like this really nice spiritual moment. I felt my crown chakra vibrating and shaking and like tingles, and I felt heat on my hands and vibration and like the sense of calm, But I also found moments where I'm like overthinking it, and I'm like, okay, I need to get out of my head right now because like, I just need to get in tune with my body. That's where I realized I'm like, okay, if I'm too much in my head, I'm not in tune with my body. So I think that's a good indication as well of being present. But I feel like, the attunement in itself was amazing, and I felt really great afterwards. And I'm going to be doing a lot of like self Reiki healing, and later on I'll mention a few things about the distance Reiki. But for now, just, I don't know. It's all pretty crazy. And like I mentioned in Lou's, in the previous episode with Lou's angelic healing, I think a lot of it was getting out of my head and just like being in the moment and letting that energy go through you,
Yeah, you find yourself thinking about, and this is what this feels, and I wonder if it's this, and it's almost like you're thinking about what's happening to you instead of just enjoying it and going, this is something really cool, vibrational and energy that I'm receiving. Let me just enjoy it and feel it. Instead, you just let your mind wander into it and just take over this really incredible moment, right? Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to manage that.
It's hard. And for me, I'm I'm a Taurus. I'm very much about thinking and doing in a lot of ways. So I feel like my brain just doesn't shut off a lot of times. It's quite difficult. Yeah.
Well, so lack of presence, there's so many different ways it can affect your life, and obviously in a negative way, not being present. And so for me, those things that come to mind are partner relationships, friendships, how you relate to your family members, whether it's your mom or your dad or your sibling, even a grandmother or grandfather. It totally takes away what could have been or what might be a precious moment, Every day that passes by is one more day we lived our life, is one more day closer to the end of our present incarnation, right? And I think that if tomorrow we would all fast forward to, our deathbeds, I think the last thing we would regret is, why didn't I ever answer those text messages? Like, we would never go back and regret that. You would regret, why didn't I put that phone down and actually, spent more time with my family, or spent more time with my daughter, or spent more time with my partner, or spend not even more time, more quality time, present time, right? So it affects a bunch of relationships around you. Friendships are hurt because there's no more it's almost like when you get together and what used to be before, like the huge cell phone era, right? You'd get together and there was nothing. It was a person in front of you, whoever was around you, and those were the conversations you were carrying out. And you're going deep sometimes, and you're having some really good conversations. And now those conversations are cut. They're being cut because, the phone, wait, let me answer this message one second. Oh, wait, I got an email from work. Okay, but no, like there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse to stop. And so it's like we should just be aware of it. And I think a lot of us are, but we don't do anything about it. So not just be aware of it, do something about it. Maybe put office hours for your phone or something and be like, to this and this time, I will be answering messages. If it's an emergency, they will give me a call and I'll hear it, vibrate in the background. Meanwhile, my phone's going to sit here and I'm actually going to spend complete quality time with this family member, with this child, with this sibling, with my mother, my father, my grandparents. I think that's something we should all challenge ourselves to do. And then we talked about this like a few times. I've started finding that even when I've had my own alone time where, Aurora's sleeping and Sandra's out for the day or for the night, and I'm like, oh, I have some alone time. And if I've decided not to study, I've decided to watch maybe documentary, something I'm interested in, or some silly movie that's just going to take me out of my moment and kind of make me laugh. And I find that I was picking up my phone because I was alone. I've gotten somewhat good at not grabbing my phone when I'm with someone, but I haven't mastered the being present with myself. That's a whole nother level, man. That's a whole nother level. And so I've decided that I'm going to be better at being present with myself because I deserve it, man. And so I started putting the phone on the other side, under the table on the other side of the couch. So every time it vibrates, it means either it waits or I have to get up and move. And it sounds stupid, but it actually, I don't do that. It's almost like it's a force of habit, right? You grab it, you go, and you just go onto Instagram and just quickly go through the feed or something. So it helps me start bringing that down a notch, right? And I know you said you started doing some stuff too, right?
Yeah, even I'm struggling for our podcast social media. I like creating content and being on there. I'm having trouble, man. I'm having trouble because it's a lot of work being on social media and posting things and responding to people to the point where I know we should be putting more effort into it, but I find it really hard. I like social media, but at the same time, I don't want it to consume my life. And for work, a lot of times I need to be on, depending on the time of year and what's going on, I have to go on Facebook. I have to go on Instagram. I have to check stuff. Not as much as I used to before, but sometimes I'll have to go check something out. So it's hard not to be online with my job. I'm constantly responding to emails, constantly responding to phone calls. And then everything's going on around me to the point where it's hard to concentrate. So it's my mind just keeps wandering and I keep getting distracted from things. So I think that kind of goes into my life too, where I'm doing one thing and thinking of another. It's hard to avoid distraction sometimes. But if, in the sense of what you said, putting your phone down or putting it, I try to do that sometimes. Just be I'll leave my phone in the kitchen and I'll go in the living room. Or, I think it's good to put office hours, like you said, or phone hours. Yeah. I want to get better at that. And it's not that I'm really doing anything productive a lot of times, unless it's something for the podcast or speaking to you or usually messaging with you, mom and dad, or needing to send something, an email out or an Akashic Records reading or something. There really is no need to be connected 24/7. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like I am that much, but I think if we all kind of maybe checked our stats and looked at how much we are connected, we'd all be a little surprised, I think.
You can check though.
You can, yeah. And you can also put restrictions on the times, right? I think that's a good one. Or
have you checked how long you spend on Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, I put a restriction for a while, but that's also when I was doing stuff for my own website and I was messaging with people and doing a lot of stuff with the Akashic Records. So it's hard. I think if it's just personal, then okay. But if it's for work or, I want to get info out to people and I want to get info out for the podcast and I'm getting messages and I'm trying to respond to people, then that's tricky, how do you, and I understand that some people work from home. How do you manage that? you work from home, you have to be on your phone, you have to be on your laptop, you have to respond, and you get distracted, and then you have your family next to you. And like, people can be understanding to a point, but I think you need to put up boundaries. I think it's boundaries with specific things, with everything in your life, I think. But with this in general, I think it sometimes can mean the difference between having a good relationship with someone and actually having a very distant relationship with someone, to the point where it's consuming your life and you're not paying attention to what's around you, which is, I feel like is my struggle sometimes. Like, I try to be present at work. I try to be present at home as much as I can. But at the same time, I don't want to lose contact with you. I don't want to lose contact with, family. It's hard, Mm-hmm. I find it hard.
Yeah. I find that my biggest struggle is the partnership right now. I've gotten pretty good at not being on my phone very much, but I feel like I keep finding myself in relationships where the person that's with me hasn't gotten there yet, or doesn't pay attention to it yet, or and it's not, obviously it's not intentional, because scrolling, I think there should be something called scrolling addiction. Like, I think there should be a rehab for scrolling, because sometimes there's times where I'll hear someone go, I was on the phone for 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, you were on for like 30 minutes. Like, the time flies and the person gets so into scrolling, and I see so many people do that. Like, boom, 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 looking at Facebook. Okay, and then you finish Facebook and you go scroll on Instagram. And then stories, and let's look at the stories. And like, dude, 30 minutes to an hour can pass by and the person thinks that they were on for 10 minutes maybe. Because the time's consumed and they just didn't realize it. Because you're not paying attention to the time that's passing. You're just totally absorbed by this one thing that is not giving you anything at all. So I think I struggle with it, because I don't like it to be part of my life, which is why even when I'm alone, I'm trying to keep my phone away from me, because I'm trying to learn to be present with myself. So I definitely take it somehow in a harsh manner when I find, even if it was you, like, well, we're in different countries, but if you were finally visiting, like you're visiting in a month, right? And you're in front of me and I see you on your phone time, I'm going to be like, dude, Lorena, when do I see you? When do we hang out? Put your phone down, dude. Like, that can wait. That can, like, seriously wait. So that's the struggle I have. And I've, like, we've talked about this before. You go to dinner. And the idea is, like, if we're going out, we're spending money to have a meal together, to have a nice conversation. And the person that's in front of you having the meal with you, if maybe it's a girlfriend or something, and she keeps picking up her phone, right? And checking. Or, oh, wait, I have to answer this message. Oh, wait, it's my boyfriend. Oh, wait, it's my mom. Or you know what? Why don't we just put our phone away till the dinner's done? And I've actually done that. I've done that many times, where I leave it in my bag and I will not check it till maybe after the main meal is done or something. But I found myself, I had a friend that would constantly grab her phone, and I found that I was eating the meal half the time totally on my own.
I've had that happen. And I do that a lot too. When I go out to dinner, I'll leave my phone in my bag and I don't check it until I get home. And then someone's like, oh, why haven't you answered your phone? I'm like, well, I'm busy. Like, I think people have that immediacy of getting answered to, which, why? Like, I'm busy. Like, even if I got a message, do I really need to answer it right now? Like, you need to ask yourself those questions. Is it urgent? Can you not just disconnect from your phone like the whole weekend? Like, I'm trying to do that more now. Like, just, if there's a message from the family group or from a friend, I'll answer it. But then I'll try to leave it, like, even to the gym. Like, for me, gym was more of my me time. So when I had, like, my little... Now I have Bluetooth headphones, so I like having my phone with me. But I'd have my little, like, iPod shuffle, and then I'd leave my phone in the car of, like, screw this, I'm not bringing it. And I would feel so in the zone when I worked out. And now I bring my phone, but I still only listen to podcasts or music, so I don't really... sometimes I'll even give it to Joe, be like, here, you hold it if he's with me. Otherwise, I'll leave it, like, somewhere, and I'll just move around with it. But I don't really, unless it's an urgent, or maybe we're talking about the podcast or something, I don't really... A few times I will answer messages, but I try to focus on that, because that's for me, right? Like, you don't want to get all distracted all the time and like have all these messages to answer to or things to check. Like, I don't know. And I think also when I started paying a little bit more attention to this was with all this spiritual kind of growth, right? Like with the Akashic Records, you have to be so present when you're going to go read someone's Akashic Records or even your own, or even you're going to go do Reiki on someone, like, or on myself. I need time to just chill out and just look inward, close my eyes, and kind of meditate, obviously, but get all the distractions out. You need to feel in such a calm place that if you're in this frenzy of your phone, your laptop, all these things, you're never going to be able to connect. So that's when I started paying more attention to that. And I think it's great. Like, it's brought me a little bit more awareness with that, but I feel like we should definitely do a challenge where, like, keep each other accountable, where we kind of, put our phones down at a specific time and just don't check it. And it's fine. It can wait till tomorrow.
You probably do auto responses for most of those places and be like, I'm not in the office right now. But it's your phone, right? But I mean, yeah. Or at least if it's somebody that messages you, like the family or a good friend, they'll know that you're not answering because of this and this and this. And if it's emergency, call me and I'll hear it and I'll pick it up, because if a call is going to be important then, probably. But another thing that I do, I've been getting better at being present. I've been reading a lot. So you have to concentrate on the words in the book. You have to tie in the stories. If you're reading something like Murakami, where he's like crazy and all this stuff is happening, I used to read in the beginning. I would get to, when I wasn't very present with the books, I would get distracted, be like, wait, and I would have to go back for like four or five pages and go, wait, I got to read this again, because I obviously didn't pay attention, and I let my mind go, and now I have no idea why this girl is doing this and why she's in a different world, kind of thing.
Story of my life.
So it's like, now I've been reading books a lot, and I read it before I go to sleep. I do meditations, but also I read before I go to sleep a lot, because it kind of brings me down and brings me present, and I get into the book and I forget about many things. I'm like, oh, and I just read. Or when I'm very angry and I feel like I'm making myself more angry than I should really be right now, and I just read, because it makes me stop thinking about that thing that's making me angry. And the more I think about it, the angrier I get. So no, I'm going to stop and read. And when I calm down, then I'll figure out what I'm supposed to do with this, or why this happened, or if I'm wrong, or, if I'm supposed to, do something spiritual for myself to align this better. But I think it's helped me after having a full-blown discussion, or, finding out bad news. That's helped me center myself and be present before I went into it. So I would go into it with a better mind to make a better decision, or have a better perspective of the issue. I know you're still struggling with the reading, though.
The reading, especially because I read at night. I don't really have time to read during the day. And when I get home, a lot of times I'll work a little on the podcast. I'll work a little bit on social media, or I'll go to the gym. So it's a lot of like move and do stuff, or cook, and then clean up, and then go to sleep. But when I read, it's usually in bed, and I will read 2 pages and I'll find myself dozing off, and my brain's thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow, or what's going on, or like, oh, Sandy's here, and I just start like petting her, and I just get really like distracted. And it's not that that's always happened to me, but I do feel like my brain, I have a hard time shutting off my brain. But you know what has been helping, though? The Reiki. The Reiki will totally calm me down. So I'm going to do that whole like 30-day thing again, where I did at the beginning. But I'm going to do, because I have my level 2 now, I'm going to try doing 30 full days, and just incorporate different things now that I've learned different like methods and the symbols and all that, and see if that helps me ground me a little bit more. And yeah, meditation's always really helped me a lot, really kind of calm down and bring myself down. And then I'm gonna try to start doing like little 10-minute meditations before I study. I'm gonna give that a try, because studying for me, like last year I studied got my personal training certification, and that was a lot of studying. That was like every day I got home from work. I didn't go to the gym for like months because I was just so concentrated on passing this test, and it was every single day. And the weekends, just studying as well. I'd take a day off here and there, but I was so focused on it. And then I would realize after a certain point I'd have to go back and just take a break. Because I think you do get to like a threshold where you just need to just breathe, you know? With anything, you can't put all in for an extended amount of time. You have to give yourself breaks even with being present, I think. Like just distract yourself a little, you know?
Yeah, but even with your distractions, you're not present with your distractions.
Well, in those cases I try, like, or go out for a walk and be present. Or distract yourself with that kind of stuff, like healthy things. Or take a break and go to the gym, or take a break and go for a bike ride. Or read a book, that's even better. But I feel like, yeah, TV really does numb you out, and social media does numb you out. But at the same time, you have to be careful with what you're consuming, right? Because if you're consuming things that are really negative, putting you in the wrong frame of mind, then maybe that's not the way to go. I think if you channel it in a way where it could be very productive and you're learning something from it. And I try to like kind of bombard my feed with spiritual things now. So at least I'm learning something. It makes it feel less like I'm wasting my time. So I think that could be a tip. If you know you're still going to go on social media, you will give yourself breaks, but make sure it's all things that you're putting in that are in some way enhancing your life and not making you feel worse about yourself or making you feel more anxiety or making you compare yourself to everybody. Like, don't go that way. Try to like control and like filter out and delete people and just keep it positive, you know?
I think it's funny because social media was created with the idea that it's going to bring people together, you know?
It does.
And
in
what
some ways.
it did do that, and it does do that. But at the same time, it's gotten to a point where now it's starting to do the contrary. When it's two physical bodies in the same room, it's starting to separate people. So it's been good, but it's been bad. Our generation for social media has been a bit different than the younger generation, where they were like kind of born into it and it already existed. I mean, I've heard stories, we didn't live it, but I've heard stories about a lot of anxiety and bullying going on with kids that are in school and social media. Like, I never went through that and you didn't, because it didn't exist, right? Like, we were teenagers when MySpace came out for the first time. And it was like the AOL, you'd get the message.
Oh, the chat.
But you had to be sitting on the
chat.
computer to get them.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to be physically on a computer. It's not like you could just be sitting on a bus or sitting at work on your, you know what I mean? Like, it is a complete distraction in so many ways. But at the same time, you can be at work, and I do that a lot. I'm at work, if I'm doing very mundane tasks for a few minutes, I will put in my headphones and listen to a podcast. But I'll listen to a podcast where I'm actually learning and getting motivated and feeling like I have a purpose. I try not to make it something that's useless, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely.
But I think in general, for being present, I think we need to think about what we're using our time for. If maybe take inventory, you know? Like, be like, all right, what do I do when I wake up? Do I grab my phone and start looking at my messages right away? Then maybe you're not starting your day off on the right foot completely.
I do that, but usually because I know that you, mom and dad, are in the total different time zone, and while I'm sleeping, you guys are chatting it up. Yeah. So like, I wake up and I usually go to the WhatsApp group of the family, and I go, okay, oh, dad had a barbecue. Okay, oh, Lorena walked the dog at the beach. Oh, okay, cool. And I'll message you guys knowing you guys are not going to see it for another like 7 hours. And I'll be like, hey, well, because you guys had fun. So it also depends on like what kind of, like, if you're grabbing your phone, are you grabbing to scroll, or are you grabbing it to like contact a family member that's not nearby you, or a friend that, you know, you haven't seen in a while? I guess that's fine. But just make sure that it's not for a totally non-emotional, non-connection reason, right? I think that know why you're doing it. Be attentive to why you're doing it. And So the tips would be that. Be attentive, like you said, take inventory. What did you do today? How many times did you grab your phone? Did you grab it for something that didn't really need to be answered right away? Did it distract you from a really good present moment you could have had with an individual you cared about? Did it take you away from a workout that you should have been concentrating that was for yourself? Yeah, just like be very attentive and be very aware of how you're doing it, where you're doing it, when you're doing it. And like you said, some people can put office hours. You can leave it in another side of the room. Do whatever you have to do to start learning to take away that habit. Because for many of us, it's a habit, right? For me, when I was alone, it was a habit. So start breaking that habit for yourself, right? And then after for those around you, it's for everybody's sake.
Yeah, and people telling you too, be like, tell me if I'm trying to get out of this addictive pattern I have with my phone. Please let me know when you see me scrolling and I'm like, you're talking to me and I'm not paying attention to you. Like, tell me. Like, you can ask people to give you feedback, 'cause sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it, right? Like, and that happens. And, you know, I think if we can get feedback from people, that could help us like slowly, like snap us out of it, you know? But I think, yeah, just take inventory, like take a week and take inventory on yourself and like be real with yourself. I'm going to do that this week, I think. And really just pay attention to what I'm doing and trying to be a little bit less, like sometimes you just grab your phone because it's there, right? Like
that's the habit of it.
That's the habit right there.
Yeah.
Or even like the fear of, oh my God, I lost my phone. Like, where's my phone?
Oh, that's awful. Yeah.
It's awful. Like, that doesn't happen. But a lot of people have everything on their phone too. Like all their credit cards, they have accounts on there. Like if you lose your phone, you're not just losing phone numbers, you're losing a lot of important information. So yeah, that's okay, I guess. But just realize why your patterns. Realize your patterns. That's it, I think.
I love the story of Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, I don't know if he broke his phone or lost his phone, but he's like, I felt so free and I felt so good. He's like, he apparently didn't get another one. And he talks about it a lot. He's been on like shows and podcasts and he's talked about how, I don't have a phone anymore. Like people have to contact his manager or something to get to him, or email him and wait to see if he checks his email at some point when he goes to, I guess, his home or something. But he talks about how he feels free now and he's not planning on getting one anytime soon is what he had said.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. It's like a freeing feeling in a way.
That's how I feel when I travel. Because when I travel, I don't have roaming. And the only time I will connect to my phone is if I have Wi-Fi, if I'm at someone's house or at a hotel. So sometimes I'll still bring my phone because I use my camera on it, but I won't connect. And sometimes I'll have Wi-Fi and I'll be like, look, no, I'm not going to connect to the Wi-Fi. And I'm enjoying the moment. I'm talking to people. I'm looking around. I'm not like trying to concentrate on like connecting or a little message or posting something on. I could do that later, but be present. Maybe even that, like turning off your data and just being present at certain moments and then turning it back on and then just, you know, like you said, if someone has to call you, they'll call you. There's an emergency.
I had an issue with like a really close girlfriend, and it wasn't that she was only just on her, because she was on her phone a lot for like answering messages and social media. She had to take a picture of every single moment that passed in life. And I'm one of those people where like I'm walking in nature and we're going by a really, really cool tree and a really cool little bridge in Holland. And yeah, it's really, it's really cute and it's really nice. Can I just enjoy the moment? But she was constantly asking me, can you take a picture of me? Oh, take a picture of me. No, I don't like the angle. And I would find myself like maybe we walked for 45 minutes and I spent 25 of those minutes taking pictures of her. And we'd gotten in fights where I'm like, I don't want to take any more pictures of you. Can you just let me be? I just want to be present. And it ended up turning into this full-blown fight where before we would leave the house or we'd leave for like a little trip, I'd be like, I'll go with you. I will take 3 maximum pictures of you and that's it. Because I just want to enjoy my moment. I just want to be present. And
that probably wouldn't have happened now because she could take selfies.
She would take selfies also. But she wanted like a bigger picture with like more in the background. Yeah. And you would find that she was never present because she spent so much time trying to find the perfect picture.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's also another way of not being present.
That is also another way of being present, being so consumed with something you're going to post on social media or Facebook or something, that you're not really living the moment. So when you look back, what memories do you have? I don't know. I think it's all about the memories too, looking back and being able to say, wow, I really enjoyed this place because I really soaked it in and I was able to enjoy it. And like breathe in the air and look at the trees and look up and not have to be looking through a screen, right?
Yep.
It's not I'm not trying to judge anybody. It's just, I think you need to see what works for you. Maybe for some people that works and they're okay with it. But,
it wasn't
putting
that,
up your boundaries.
It wasn't that her not being present was bothering me. It was bothering me that she was trying to get me to do something for her to get a better shot or a better picture, and it was taking away from the way that I absorbed my moment and the way I was enjoying the path. So it wasn't a thing of being criticizing her. If she's happy that way, if finding the perfect picture is total bliss for her, be happy, but don't take away the way that I want to absorb the moment and the way what's bliss for me, which is just walking in nature in this moment and going and watching my daughter run, and instead I'm finding that I have to stop that every 5 minutes because there's a better shot a few steps ahead, right? So it's like, just okay, if that's what makes you happy, great, but I work really hard to be present. Like, just let me be present, man, please. Like.
Yeah, but good for you for putting up the boundary and saying, look, I'll do this, but no more than that. Like, I need to enjoy and be present. And that's great. Like, that's what I'm striving for to do, putting up more boundaries with everything.
Easy. It created conflict. It created a lot of fights between both of us. But I think that after a while, she started realizing I wasn't going to take more pictures. I wasn't going to take 20 pictures. I'll take a few, and that's the end of it. And so she started realizing that, and she just stopped asking, which allowed me to enjoy the moment. But it still created some sort of friction between the two of us. So it's like really hard to balance out what you want in life and those around you, what they want, and what they expect, and what they consider to be their way of enjoying that moment. Maybe, and not all the pictures she was taking was just for social media. Some of them were for her because I've seen her sit down and look back at pictures. She literally goes back to pictures years ago and actually does look at them and remember it. So she really does use them to remember the moment. But that's not, I'm not into that.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole episode in its own. I don't know what you think about boundaries. I think we really need to get into
boundaries.
That would be so good. I think I need to hear maybe your take on that. And maybe we can even do a little poll on social media, on like Instagram, and say like how everyone. I'd love to hear everybody's feedback on that. Like, what does everyone do to put it? Like, what's a way you put up a boundary to get what you need, or to to protect yourself or your energy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. I might do that this week, and then we can get some feedback and do an episode of that.
Sounds good.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about being present. I mean, there's a lot more we could say.
No, I think we covered basically everything I wanted to say, and what I consider to be important that I felt like I wanted to talk about with you.
Yeah, I think maybe we can ask. Yeah, once this episode goes up, I think we can maybe also start doing little polls and asking people what are their blocks and what are their issues with this stuff, because it'd be good to hear how people manage this. I think everybody's so different. It'd be interesting. And like you said, it's all about what you need and what the other person needs, and sometimes it's not just about you, so that's when it gets tricky. But yeah, so let's wrap this up. I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. I'm sure there will be other episodes that I'll mention being present, because this is such a spiritual, such a part of being spiritual that it'll keep coming up, and I'm sure we'll keep touching on this. But for now, we'll leave you with this. Make sure that you're following us on social media, because I think I'm gonna start doing those polls this week. So we want to get your feedback on stuff and hear your opinion on these topics that we're talking about. So yeah, have a great week, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode all about being present. We know this is a big issue for a lot of people, especially now in this day and age with so much technology and social media. So we just wanted to touch on it and how we're struggling a little bit with it, especially with work. I feel like this is such a big part of everybody's job today. So, it's only natural that we all feel it in some way. So we'll be doing a few polls and interacting with you all on social media. So be sure to be following us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is @soul_tribe_podcast. As well, if you really enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with someone you think might benefit from this information. And as well, if you feel called to, also please go on iTunes and rate and review us. It'll really help put our information out there to everybody. And thanks again. We hope you have a great week. And thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.